technical, Andrew. Otherwise, I'd be speaking to you. But there's a lot of activity going on here.
No, it's all good. I'm just going to stay quiet until I know when to speak.
And that's why they call it the blues. Okay, so okay, good. Right. So, Andrew, I have my first question. This is coming from me. In regards to and I'm speaking very specifically about an earlier conversation that we had today. How do you cope with very intense castings or jobs that you are going for, or that you've been cast for, in regards to you don't know anybody on set, you may never have worked with these actors before or this particular director before. How do you know how to approach, who to speak to, when to speak, how to behave? Like, what's your sort of process with that? Difficult question to start you off.
Right. Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'd just like to say hello, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon and meet you guys. So now that is a difficult one, because that when I started out in the industry, I remember very well, and I probably got this from my parents, to kind of in a new situation, to just kind of stay quiet, absorb the information around me, and kind of use my own logic and common sense. And I think that was just something that was in me from a very young age. As you go along and you know which situations are intense or going to be nerve-wracking or anything like that, you know that when you go there, to just roll with it, to just run with whatever is thrown at you, whatever's asked of you, and you just kind of learn. You learn as you go along how can I say it? Just never rely on one thing. Everything is always subject to change. And never think that just because something happened one time before, that's going to be the way it's going to happen every single time. You could be sent a script to learn for a scene that you're doing in a TV part or whatever, and you can get to set, on that morning, and the whole thing could have changed, and you could be given rewrites. And that's happened to me several times before, and it's one of the scariest things. So just because you get there and you're fully prepped and you've done your homework, you've done your characterization prep and all of that stuff, it doesn't mean to say that other things won't be thrown at you. So just be prepared for anything to happen. That's all I can say on that one, really.
Yeah, so it's because that also applies to a lot of our students, not just when they get a job or when they go for an audition, but just like, anybody entering into a new classroom or entering a new workspace of any capacity. I think the answer you just gave is great, because what you're saying is, like, you just need to be adaptable in that moment, because each time you join a new party, a new group, a new workforce, it will always be different. So
any life situation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which brings me on to something again that you and I were speaking about earlier, and I know that a lot of my students genuinely do suffer, and I use the word suffer quite deliberately, because they do genuinely find it difficult, is nerves, and being nervous, and being quite it's quite disabling for some of our actors, where they can't control how they're feeling, and they feel like they're going to vomit, or they feel like they're going to cry, or they feel how do you deal with nerves, and do you experience nerves?
I experience nerves on a daily basis to this present day. I'm nervous now. I actually feel a slight trembling all over my body as we speak, because this is a new thing for me to kind of venture into the whole world of Zoom and give out sort of my take on the industry. You know, it's been a long time since I've done something like this. So for me, I never ignore the fact that I'm nervous. I never try to push it away, because it will only pack it down deeper, and then it will come out bigger a bit later on. Sometimes I've cried. Sometimes I felt like I'm going to vomit. I'm not going to lie. I've been on stage before where I have run off into the wings and I have vomited. So you just have to let these feelings do their thing. They have to manifest. They have to bubble up, you know, and let them do their thing. As you go along, working as an actor and having, you know, things to do, script to learn, marks to hit on set or whatever, all of those things will then kind of cement you as to where you're meant to be. But initially, what I would say is, when you're starting out, is allow yourself to have those nerves, because they are completely justified. You know, it's if I didn't have the nerves, I probably would feel like I didn't care anymore, or it wasn't important to me.
Yeah.
If those nerves stop, I'd probably be a bit worried if I was completely honest. So, but just try to breathe and know that it's okay to be nervous. There's nothing wrong with nerves whatsoever. And I have been a nervous kid before, especially when I was younger, much younger. I was a very, very nervous kid, and I used to get panic attacks and things like that. So I know what it's like.
So, you know, we're talking to you today, Andrew, and you've been in the game for, well, tell us, how long is it exactly that your love for acting began?
God. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I just knew what I wanted to do. But I didn't tell my parents until I was 16, because back when I was a kid, you just didn't. I come from a working class family. You know, our family didn't do anything like that. So when I told my parents at 16 what I wanted to do, they tried to dissuade me. And you know, my dad wanted me to go out and just get a job in a local sort of packing factory or something. I don't know, but he just thought I was bonkers. What was it? I just missed where we're going. What was it? What was the last bit you just said, Daniel?
So like, you know, we're talking to somebody, yourself, who has been in the industry for a long time, but you're telling our students today that you're still experiencing nerves, which is, for me, and I hope our actors agree, that's really, really refreshing to hear. So it doesn't matter how long you've been in the game, you still experience it. Even today, you're feeling
absolutely
anxiety. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's like a little tremble, like I'm bubbling up at the moment. I feel slightly hot and anxious. I feel like my voice is trembling.
Yeah.
But that's just because, you know, I want to be able to, you know, hopefully give you guys some information that helps you along your way. So because this I care about the industry, and I care about you guys in terms of what you're stepping into, and the fact that you get to hear something that might, you know, help you. So I'm just trying to speak from the heart and just let you know where I'm at, basically.
Yeah.
So but yeah, the nerves for me have never gone away. So yeah, with this coronavirus thing going on, this is going to be the first time pretty much in my life that I'm going to face a period of time where I absolutely have no clue what's going on, because my whole schedule was shelved overnight, as with all actors and performers throughout the world. So you know, most of us were told by our agents that we probably wouldn't work until next year. So because nothing, you know, can feasibly be put together at the moment. But yeah, bit of a cop out, I'm afraid. But I don't honestly have a specific favourite. But you know, there have been many different highlights, many different key moments that I feel very blessed and very sort of, you know, kind of a bit overwhelmed that I've managed to be a part of sometimes. So I'm just very, very, very grateful to continue to work and progress as an actor. So yeah. When I was a kid, one of my biggest inspirations was Dustin Hoffman, because I was just kind of drawn into he's a very intense man when you see him working. I don't know if you've seen any of his projects, and but he's, everything he does, even to this day, there's an intensity to him. And that's, you know, he was kind of probably my biggest sort of male inspiration of all time when I was a kid. I went through that typical phase of, you know, the whole sort of De Niro thing and that type of thing when I was younger, and, you know, different sorts of times in movie history where different things were happening. I'd have sort of different people that I was inspired by, but the one that just always springs to mind, and I still, you know, I still think about that is Dustin Hoffman and his intensity, because he's so very respectful of working as an actor and being as an actor. And I've watched many documentaries and things about him. And when I've watched those documentaries and then looked back at the scenes that he's talking about in different movies that he's done, there was a movie he did with Meryl Streep called Kramer versus Kramer. It's a great movie. You know, he's talking about how he, you know, literally just went completely off script and freaked, you know, a very young, nervous Meryl Streep out, and she had no clue what was gonna happen. When you look back at that, you see this genuine sort of fear in her eyes, and it's quite fascinating to watch. So, but he's a man that cares about the industry and the craft, and he's a true professional, because he's not kind of zapped in by all that fame rubbish and all that celebrity stuff and, you know, money making and all that type of thing. He's about telling a story. So it tends to be actors like that you know, tell a story and respect what acting is about. So yeah, but he's my all-time great childhood inspiration. Well, when I trained as a dancer, I only ever wanted to be one of these sort of backing dancers for sort of pop singers and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff. But I ended up going to a very good school, where we were trained classically and contemporary, and I got a scholarship. And I know that they accepted me on the basis that I had a good potential to be sort of a good dancer in that type of world. And they nurtured me and they gave me lots of attention. And I knew full well that that's not the type of work that I wanted to go into. So I kind of made them a little bit angry in the third term of the final year, because when we were allowed to start auditioning, they discovered to their horror that I wanted to work in the commercial world, and I managed to get myself a commercial dance agent and sort of start doing that whole thing, which was, you know, sort of back in dancing for, I did things like the Brits and Royal Variety Show and TV shows and that type of thing, and that's what I wanted to do, and I just wanted to be hidden away behind the artist and just dance in a group of people, and that's what I wanted to do. In terms of challenging projects, I found that whole world intensely challenging. because I didn't start from when I was a young kid. I would never tell a director how to communicate with me. All directors work differently, and you will find that. So you will find that some work, they understand actors and they understand emotion, they understand emotional prep and that type of thing. Other directors work on the bigger picture, the visual, what they can see, what they want to see, what's in the frame, where your mark is, and then different directors work differently from different mediums. So from film, we have a bit more time to kind of, work out the scene or rehearse the scene before you shoot it. On TV, you've got to nail that scene hopefully in one take. So it's all very sort of very by numbers in terms of television. Theatre is a bit more in depth, a bit more, you can, the directors you work with tend to be a bit more actor friendly, as it were, in terms of characterization and that type of thing. I would like, I like people to talk to me as they are, just as themselves, really, and how they wish to work and how they wish to sort of communicate. If there is an issue or if there is something I don't understand, I will always, without fail, whether it's big or small, ask a question. Because if I'm not sure, I will always ask a question. I won't ask a million questions because that would be too much. But if you're really not sure about something, ask a question. Or there's always somebody else around that you can always ask a question, if you didn't want to disturb the director as well. But I can never ask a director how to communicate with me because they all work in their own specific ways. And unless you're one of the 1% that's, an A-lister, sort of leading the box office takings, you're not really going to be able to have that much of a pull over what and how you want the director to work with you.
Yeah. Do you
if that helps in any way?
Yeah. Do you have a preferred way? So like, I know you might not necessarily have the power or the status to control how that communication works, but do you have like a preferred, I prefer theatre because it's so much more organic and playful, or actually do you quite like having, right, we've got 10 minutes to get this shot because we're losing light, you've got to hit A, B and C, this is your mark, this is your line, go. What do you prefer out of all of the mediums, platforms of acting?
I honestly can say I don't have a preference because I have to go prepared as an actor anyway. So I have to go having done my own rehearsal, my own preparation, my own characterization, my own script process. I have to do all of that beforehand anyway. So as long as I've made a choice as an actor and stuck by a choice, unless I'm told anything different or asked to do something different, then so be it. That's where we go from. Yeah. And that's the way I find most things are. If from the initial casting, when you go to a casting process, if you've made a choice about how you feel the character might be played, and it's never ever been questioned through the 5 recalls that you've done to get the part,
yes,
then if they're not questioning it, then it's okay. And that's how I see it in my book. When there is an issue or they do want you to change something, they'll usually say to you anyway. But I don't have a preferred way in terms of what. I think if anything, when I was younger, I used to like to milk every single thing and really just go over it. Nowadays, if we can get the scene done in one take,
yeah, I
quite like that because, often when things are done, and everyone's working together and everyone's prepped, the scene, scenes can be shot and grabbed in 1 or 2 takes.
Yeah.
If there's one thing or one person or one technical aspect that keeps failing, that's where you can kind of lose the essence of the scene, because you keep going over it, and sometimes you can lose something.
Yeah.
So especially in film and TV, the only challenge I would say that usually working class families, like I said, I come from a working class family myself. My parents had no money to send me to drama school or anything like that at all. Would be the finances. That's sort of the one aspect. In terms of everything else, there was no challenge as far as I was concerned. When I was younger, when I left home at 16 and told my parents what I wanted to do, I was such a determined kid. There was nothing that I was never gonna be not capable of. I think because of my dad's opinion about what I wanted to do, it kind of made me work even harder. So don't see, anything as a challenge so much. Just think there is a way through this, that I can do this, because I kind of set out to do many, many different things, and and I achieved quite a lot of them. And when I look back, it's kind of a bit mind-blowing, really, but I literally set out and I just said nothing is going to stop me in doing what I want to do, because everything is possible. And if you want to do to do something that involves sort of spending a bit of money or that kind of thing, there's ways and means of doing so. I mean, I have a good friend who is a very well-known actor. I'm not going to say who he is, but he's you'd all know who he is. And before he went to LA to pursue sort of working over there a few years ago, I mean, he was literally in a theatre show, doing theatre, 8 shows a week, and then working in a restaurant during the daytime as a table waiter to get more money, because he was saving up for his fees for his visas and that type of thing, because he was determined to get out there. I mean, so if you really put your mind to it, everything is possible. So don't see that as a challenge or a block. You can do whatever you want to do. And I truly believe that, hand on heart.
Yeah, amen. I totally agree.
Absolutely, go for it. Don't let anything stop you. I mean, yeah, you look at the script and you see, you get to know the type of character that you're playing. So you get to see the different types, and you get to see the sort of the one-dimensional view of what everybody's perception of that character might be. In terms of giving it some depth, I look at the basic 3 emotions. So, sadness, anger, or being happy, in terms of how they're utilized with where you are in a scene. So, you can look at a scene and basically I look at where that person is. Are they angry? Are they sad? Are they happy? And it gives a little underbelly in terms of where you are. Don't need to focus on it in terms of thinking, oh yes, I'm angry this whole time, I must be angry. It's like, but in that moment, in that scene, if the character is in an angry place, you just put that into your brain and just think, yeah, he's an angry person right now. Let it just bubble up underneath, and it will kind of come out as and when it needs to, in terms of when you're delivering those lines, because emotions never stay the same each time. So as we all know, it's not possible to maintain the exact same emotion each and every time. You'll have different variants of each time. So I try, just that initial thing is to look at where they are in terms of one of those 3 emotions, and that's the initial thing, and that gives me a bit of substance, bit of a soul, as it were. Does that make sense?
so you're saying like you get your baseline first, and it's, you know, you could be at a funeral and still laugh despite being incredibly bad. So but you might go in, you might say, okay, in this scene somebody has passed away, so my baseline emotion is sadness, but anything can happen along that scene, including laughter and anger and whatever, but you have your base emotion.
Yeah, but it's regarding to the character though. So I mean, I could be at a funeral, but I may have, you know, the character may have no sort of typical sort of sad connection with being at that funeral. So you have to identify that or not. So I could be at that funeral, I really don't want to be there. So you have to look at, you know, where the character is. So it's about, you know, the character and where they're at in that moment, not in terms of the surroundings. If the surroundings might be sad, or the, you know, it might be sad, might, you know, happy, you could be at a party or something, but you might actually not want to be there. So you could be at a party, but the character is in a bad place because they've got something else going on. So, you know, it depends on what the, you know, the subtext of that character's story is, or the purpose of them being there, or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
I started, let me think. It was kind of, well, I mean, I started with dancing initially because I trained as a dancer when I was 17. And at the time of that, sort of the modeling thing happened as well, because lots of dancers end up sort of going into modeling. Modeling itself is basically acting with no words. So just because typical, you know, sort of typical really beautiful women or men, you know, that we used to have back in the sort of 80s and 90s, they were kind of these super creatures of gorgeousness that were so unobtainable to the rest of us, you know, but just because they were so beautiful, they only worked because they were able to go onto set and give something to the story that they were shooting, or the you know, the ad campaign that they were shooting, or whatever. Just because they're standing there in nice clothes, or, you know, they were good looking or whatever, doesn't mean to say that they're going to take a great picture. They still need to be able to act and portray some kind of emotion. So the best models, you know, when I was younger, were the models that kind of you know, were not afraid to look stupid or wear something silly or just, you know, act like an idiot, because they had something inside of them. So anything where you're using your, you know, your emotions inside, that's when it comes across better. Same with dancing. You can have the most technically brilliant dancer where everything is perfect, but if they've got no emotion and the story is not coming from within, and they're not, you know, again, being an actor and displaying those emotions, those dancers don't really work because they're not giving anything out. They have to emote. It's all about, you know, making people feel something. That's essentially what acting is. It's you know, connecting with people via emotions. It's not all about putting on the costume, putting on an accent and that type of thing. It's delivering these emotions. It's getting to the core of, you know, what we all connect with, and that's whether something, you know, makes us laugh or makes us cry. If you connect with an audience in that way, it will be because, you know, you're feeling something. If you're feeling something, they'll be feeling something. So they kind of all worked hand in hand for me, and they still do. You know, I still get to do the odd thing where I have to dance about like an idiot, or, you know, do a photo campaign or something, but it's still you're still portraying a character and an emotion. So it's all kinds of blends into, you know, that format of acting, basically, if that makes sense. So it's, you know, each can help each other, and it's good to get experiences in, you know, with whatever is, you know, put to you, if you get the opportunity to. So yeah, this is where it all started for me. Michael Jackson's Thriller video, when I was a kid, when that was released, it just kind of did something to me, with all the zombies coming out. And you know, it was because it was such a big thing when I was a kid. It was a huge deal. And then I remember being so freaking scared with all these zombies coming out the graves, and literally hiding behind a cushion on the couch, because I was a bit of a wimp when I was a kid. I was a bit of a little quiet sort of shy boy, and I was scared of everything. And I remember being like scared of like watching these zombies coming out and everything, and it really kind of, I found it sort of full on. And then all of a sudden, these zombies start doing this, you know, the Thriller dance routine, and I can remember, I can't even believe I'm saying this, I can remember saying to my dad, because I noticed all the zombies suddenly had like, if you ever watch it, like go back and watch it at some point, all the zombies, suddenly they've all got these kind of shiny shoes on, or normal shoes, whereas before they didn't. And I was just like, why have they got shoes on? And my dad was saying to me, well, basically they're professional working dancers, and they have to, you know, before they shot that scene, they have to put these shoes on so they can do their choreography. And that just literally blew me away, the fact that these people this was a job, basically. And I never realized, you know, I realized that you could be paid to perform, and that was their job. And then there's the next time that kind of, it kind of really struck me was when I first saw, went to the theatre as a kid. And I remember just literally being bolt upright in my seat, and I was just literally mesmerized by everything that was going on, and I just wanted to be a part of that magic, that creation, what you know. And that's where it really kind of started for me. I wanted to be a part of that, because I realized that was something that people did for a job. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I kind of then kept looking at different references throughout my childhood, and I kept it all to myself, because I felt like I was a bit weird or different back then, and I didn't really talk to people about it, because I think people would have thought I was mad. And I was right, because my dad did when I was 16, and then I kind of went from there. Initially, I went to train as a dancer when I was 17, 18 for 3 years, and I managed to get a scholarship. And then after my sort of dancing and sort of the modelling career started to change, that's when I did a year's training in between work at a school in London. So yeah. And I kind of went to a technique that kind of stripped me right back and got me looking at characterization and emotions, and I think half of my course, half of the people disappeared halfway through, because it was so intense and so full on. I mean, due to my own personal sort of life and experiences in you know, certain sort of personal childhood experiences, I was very, very self-aware anyway as a kid, and I was very conscious of observing other people's behaviors and observing my own behavior, and that kind of thing didn't really frighten me anyway. And in terms of stripping down, I mean, I didn't really see it as a stripping down in the sense that they stripped me to nothing, because nobody can strip you to nothing, because they can't, nobody can ever take that away from you in terms of what you are. I think the point of why schools do this is so that you're aware of certain aspects of yourself that you may not be, because some people are completely not aware of certain sides of themselves. And if you're not, then that can be detrimental, probably more so. So it's good to be aware of certain things that have happened to you in your life and not just, brush them under the carpet. It's good to highlight those to a certain level, maybe not to the levels that some schools do, but just be aware of we were given the example that the reason why my school did that is because they were sort of looking at the whole sort of method acting thing of how, it was sort of became a big thing with the sort of hardcore method many years ago. And to keep going back to certain real aspects of your life, or using those time and time again for your, emotional prep or whatever for a scene, is just not healthy for your headspace. Basically, you have to find a way of connecting with a real emotion, but with some kind of imaginary circumstance, but something that's true to you, because you can't keep going over things that have happened to you within your own life, because you will literally drive yourself crazy and probably end up in a white room with all the doors locked or something. So
Sure.
So yeah, it's just to be aware of yourself in terms of what behaviors you have and how connected to those you are. Just try to be aware of who you are as a person.